Hey everybody, welcome back. Today we have a special review and one that you guys have been asking for ever since kind of eyeing this product in the background in some of my other videos. And why this is so special is because this product that we're going to review today is in large part inspired by the very product that got me into vinyl records in the first place. Of course, I'm talking about none other than the TECHNICS SL-1500C direct drive turntable. So the 1500C is kind of an audiophile version of the infamous 1200, the TECHNICS 1200. Now the 1200 was a DJ table, and it has reached kind of legendary status over the years, and for good reason. The thing was built like a tank, which when you're on the road or you're doing DJ sets, you want that reliability, you want that ruggedness. But the 1500C is not just a direct port over from the 1200C. In fact, the 1500C looks like the 1200, but it lacks a lot of the DJ-centric controls and features that makes the 1200 perfect for a club-like atmosphere that you may not want in your home. Things like pitch control and speed indicators, LED lights, things like that. You don't necessarily need that in your living room. Not that that should stop you if you're considering buying a 1200, because like I said at the beginning of this review, the 1200 is what got me into vinyl records in the first place. Having just moved to California, I was about, I think, 18 or 19. I moved from Colorado to California, and I happened upon a 1200 deck used through a friend of a friend at college, and I snagged it. And that is how I got into vinyl records kind of as a teenager and as an adult. Like, they were in the house growing up, you know, with my grandparents, but the 1200 was my first turntable and the only turntable that I owned for a very, very long time. So to say that I was spoiled in kind of doing a moonshot right away would be an understatement, because back then I knew the 1200 was good. I knew I liked it, but I had no idea how iconic and how incredible a machine it really was. To say the least, I don't think I appreciated it as much as I should have at the time. So when it came time to move, when it came time to sell it, A, I didn't really know what I had, so I sold it relatively cheap. And B, I was never able to get another one. And so every subsequent turntable that I bought had to live up to this memory that I had of the 1200. And suffice to say, there were always some great turntables in my system, turntables that I love to this day, but something was always just kind of missing. Like, I missed that ease of use, the reliability, the no fuss factor that the 1200 brought me. So obviously, when the opportunity came to review the new TECHNICS SL-1500C, I jumped on it. And I jumped on it because A, I was really curious about it, but B, I wanted to relive that time and place and hopefully recapture that sound that I love dearly. That is my history with the 1200. Now, the 1500C is a decidedly upgraded, updated piece of kit in that it looks like a descendant of the 1200, but it looks like it belongs in a living room or den or proper 2-channel audiophile system. That is to say that it lacks things like pitch controls, LED lights, speed indicators, and things like that. No, instead you have your choice of silver or black finish. My review unit was the iconic silver and black two-tone finish, which I absolutely love and would strongly recommend that if you're considering this table, this is the one you're going to want. If for nothing else, the resale value alone will likely be higher. But you get your start-stop, your on-off button, and your speed select. You have that iconic S-shaped tone arm. The DJ-style head shell is still there, and it comes pre-configured with an Ortofon 2M red cartridge. That same wonderful direct drive motor is present here in the 1500C, and I gotta tell you, everything that I loved about my 1200 is present and accounted for with the 1500C, just a little bit more refined. And that is to say that setup was easy. There is a lot of this. A lot of the 1500C setup is handled at the factory, meaning that once you kind of unbox it, assemble it, follow a few simple steps that are easy enough to follow for even a beginner, even a first timer. This is not a turntable you have to be afraid of. Once you follow the few steps to get up and running, you can be listening to records via the 1500C in under 20 minutes. And that is a very, very good thing, because one of the biggest benefits about a direct drive turntable and the Technics turntable lineage on a whole is just the utility, robustness, and convenience of it. And the 1500C, while looking much more an audiophile piece of kit, has that usability still intact. And I absolutely am grateful for it. Another thing that I think really helps the 1500C be the usability utilitarian king that it is the fact that it includes a very, very good built-in phonostage. Now, this is switchable. You can choose to use it. You can choose not to use it. There are two discrete sets of outputs on this particular turntable. So the 1500C is out of the box ready to work with the widest variety of equipment and electronics out there on the market today. You can also pair this directly to, say, powered speakers, whether those powered speakers have built-in phono preamps or they don't, which means this thing can become the centerpiece of a very, very minimalist two-channel system, which and you guys know, I absolutely love. Now, that's not how I chose to use it. I chose to connect it to the Technics SUG-700 integrated that I reviewed earlier on this channel, as well as to the brand new Marantz NR-1200 integrated amp. And I used it with an outboard phono stage as well as with the built-in phono stage, and ultimately concluded that if Technics and your money is going to pay for a built-in phono stage in the 1500C, why not use it? Because, spoiler alert, it doesn't suck. It's a very, very pleasing combination that I just assume not add more components to in muddying up the signal chain. So what I'm about to describe as far as sound quality is concerned, know that I am describing the 1500C using its built-in phono preamp to either the Technics integrated or the Marantz. So how does the 1500C sound? Well, the 1500C is not what I would classify as romantic. That is to say that there's not this overwhelming blanket of warmth that's going to wow you with sort of a romanticism and nostalgia that I think a lot of people think vinyl is supposed to sound like. You know, this warm, kind of syrupy, not gushy, but you know what I mean? Just kind of, it's like a Snuggie, you know? This isn't like that. The Technics 1500C has a much more forward, dynamic, dare I say, digital sound. Now, when I say the 1500C has a sort of kind of digital sound, I'm not saying that it's flat or it's etched or anything like that. No, what it has is it has a lot of speed. It has a lot of impact, a lot of attack, if you will. Transients are very, very quick. So what I mean by that is things like cymbal hits and snare hits, guitar riffs, all of these things that are supposed to have speed and then trailing edges. You hear those very, very, very clearly through the 1500C. And with other tables, you know, those things are still present, but they have a little bit less oomph, a little bit less urgency to them. They have a little slowness. The impact might be there, but it's not quite as explosive. And the trailing edges get a little bit fuzzier sooner than what I experienced with the 1500C. That makes the 1500C's overall sound and tone a little bit lively. It's a fun table. You can kind of sense its DJ pedigree here in that it makes you want to listen. And there's a lot of kind of toe tapping and air guitaring that kind of comes as standard with a table like this, and you put on the right record, you feel energetic about listening to it, and it makes you smile, makes you grin, and it feels good. And that is what I mean when I say that this table has a lively presence. It's not forward, it's not harsh, and it's definitely very, very pleasing, but there's just a little boost of energy to it that I found to be rather kind of infectious, and I liked it. The high frequencies are incredibly smooth, very detailed. I'm going to say a little bit on the drier side. They don't sparkle. There's not that crystalline sort of glassiness at the top end. It's much more smooth, much more dry. Maybe a hint rolled off, but honestly, that doesn't bother me because I find that I would rather have that and have the information than a table that over accentuates, or a cartridge that over accentuates the high frequencies, in which case they become too noticeable or stand out just that little degree more from the rest of the whole. For me, music is all about getting the sum of all the parts right, and I don't like it when any one particular product shines too much light on a portion of the musical spectrum or frequency range, and I find that the 1500C doesn't do that. It's not neutral. It definitely has, like I said, a little bit forward sound, a little bit energetic sound. It's not neutral, but it doesn't overly accentuate anything in its presentation. If anything, I would have to say that it gives up a little bit of bass extension on a whole. Like, I have tables here in the house that play lower or seem to play lower, but they don't play with the same impact and speed at those lower octaves that the 1500C does. And so you have to kind of weigh those trade-offs. Do you want bass that's fast and articulate, or do you want bass that kind of hits a little harder or maybe rumbles a little bit more down low? If you want a rumbly experience, I can't say that the 1500C is going to deliver that each and every album or every time. It is recording dependent, but it is on a slightly, like 95% lighter side. But in my opinion, where it counts in that kind of 30, 40, 50 hertz register where bass is impactful, it is without peer in its price class, in its price category, and I think that that's remarkable. When it comes to the mid-range, that is by far my favorite aspect of the 1500C's performance, because I really do admire and like the turntable's focus and palpability where it counts. And so no matter whether you're listening to a male or female vocalist, larger ensemble or pop music recording, it's just, there is a presence there that is hard to really quantify. But once you hear it, you realize how sort of laid back or pushed back certain tables in the mid-range actually are. They're still very pleasing, these other tables, but they're just maybe a little bit dark or recessed compared to the 1500C. And that brings me to my next point about the 1500C, and that is the soundstage layering is so much more clearly and cleanly defined, front to back and side to side. The soundstage boundaries extend well beyond the outer edges of your speakers. The center focus is probably, a foot or so forward of the front baffles, and then it just extends forever if the recording has it to give. And I find that to be how turntables and how music is supposed to sound when done right. And so while the 1500C may not be the end-all, be-all in absolute performance, it does enough of all of the big things right that on a whole, I think it elevates itself from being more of a lower-end mid-fi turntable and becomes a sort of mid-fi to higher-end turntable that then becomes something that people have to look out for and question. How much more are you willing to spend to better its performance? Because there is better, but it's so good at what it does within the realm of how it does it at its price point that I do think that you're starting to then have to discuss turntables in the $3,000 to $5,000 range to outright, blind taste test, whatever you want to call it, best what the 1500C dishes out for $1,200. And then when you toss in the fact that a lot of those higher end turntables add in a magnitude of fuss, well, the ease of use and daily drivability of the 1500C just make it so much more relevant, I think. And that's what I kept coming back to is, yes, I know I could have a little bit better this, or I could have a little bit better that, but on a whole, I just kept looking and coming back to the 1500C and going, yes, but what is it worth to me? And the truth is that on a whole, it isn't. The 1500C kind of gives me everything that I would be looking for in the market for if I had that kind of money and wanted to spend it on a turntable. Is the $1,200 1500C that much better than, say, a $300 or $400 U-turn? Is there a noticeable, demonstrable difference between that? Would doubling a $500 budget to jump up to, say, a $1,000 to $1,200 1500C make a difference? And I got to tell you, not in every case. But in the case of the 1500C, being able to bench it against two different U-turn turntables that I now own, yes, the 1500C is better. It just is. It is better. And that's not to take anything away from U-turn, and I don't think anyone at U-turn would take umbrage with what I just said. But if you are wondering what you have to spend to do better than, say, a $300 to $400 U-turn, I'm saying you're going to be in the $1,000 to $1,200 range before those differences become very, very clear, as they were with the 1500C. So what don't I like about it? Not much, to be honest with you. Not much. Honestly, what I don't like about it is that I had to send it back. I had to send it back because at the moment, I don't have the funds to buy it. So that was a real problem for me and a real problem for Christy because she loves the thing. So yeah, that's a problem. Okay, if I'm nitpicking here, what don't I like about it, or what do I think people are going to have an issue with or take issue with? I think people might take issue with the look. I happen to think it's cool, but I'm also partial to the look of it because I had a 1200 way back in the day. And so seeing the 1500C in my system brought back a lot of memories, but it's just really cool and it's got a vintage flair. If you're one that's into hardwoods, if you're one that's into esoteric or exotic finishes, well, the 1500C doesn't have that, and it's never going to have that. Nor is it ever going to have a carbon fiber arm or anything that doesn't look like a DJ table. So if that aesthetic isn't your bag, then yeah, you're going to probably skip right over the 1500C because it's not going to look cool or audiophile enough. But outside of that, I really can't fault its performance. I can't fault it because for me, personally, I really dig the sound of it. I like it. I can live with that little bit less bass at the absolute extremes, and I can live with that little bit rolled off, maybe drier high frequency at the extremes because I love everything else that it does. Between those 2 points, I find to be so good and fun and infectious, and I just love how easy it is to use, approach, and just deal with every single day. I mean, it's just the easiest turntable to live with. And when something is easy to live with, easy to use, you're more apt to use it and enjoy it. And that, in my opinion, is how you get your money's worth for investing a little bit more in a product like the SL-1500C. So that's it. Those are my thoughts on the Technics SL-1500C. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you think this is a home run for Technics, or is it a swing and a miss, just trading upon the 1200 lineage when people should just be buying a 1200 instead? I want to know in the comments below. And as always, guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, this review. And remember, the only person that has to like the sound of your system is you. So happy listening, everybody. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you on the next video. Bye.